What's up? Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. How are ya?
Yo, looking so fly and fresh. 9
This
a.m.
is this is a first, to be honest.
We
I'm
get up,
ex
we get to pumpness, man. It's
Yeah,
good.
I'm so used to waking up to watch your show. It's like it's different now to like wake up and be on your show.
Listen, I appreciate you making some time for me.
My
I've been
pleasure.
wanting to save you for the best conversation as we got into breaking down more things. You know what I mean? Um, Yeah, thank you so much, man. Thank you so much for the good vibes, my dude. Um, so I did a bit of an intro from my perspective of who you are, but I'd love for you to do the intro from your perspective before and it's a beautiful setup because this week's entire topic for me is about the great expectations on life, right? Things
Right.
that we put on ourselves, things that we inherit. And so I sort of shared my version of you. Let's do the Nirmala 1 minute intro to the world and cap it off with one amazing milestone that is
Okay.
not our working relationship this year for you.
Okay. So I mean, it's always nice to hear what someone else's perspective of like how they see you because like every person has a different like view of you and like you never really know what that person actually knows about you, so it's good to hear. Yeah, you kind of encapsulated a lot of it. As you said, I dabble in a lot of different areas. For me it's always been like if I find something as um, a passion, I try it. I am a graduate of Ryerson University. I did theater performance production. Yeah, Ryerson in the house. I used to be a professional dancer. That's
I didn't
kind
know
of what
that.
got me moving in the direction of show business. I mean, I grew up
Right.
with my parents, as the heads of our religious community and stuff. So they used to be like doing all these like fundraising events and all kinds of community gatherings and stuff like that. So like as a child, we'd always be involved in helping prepare those events, and then like seeing through the execution and that I think that's where my interest actually started when I was a kid for events. And I didn't necessarily realize that that was the thing that I wanted to do because as a child I thought, oh, I'm going to be a teacher because like I've always been some sort of teacher. um, so yeah, like when I was applying for university, it was like, okay, well, you can go to teachers college, and like, what are your teachables going to be? But then somehow I ended up actually pursuing what I wanted to do, which was I have a Bachelor of Fine Arts, which is the first in my family, first one to pursue the arts as a career as opposed to just a side thing. Yeah, I have a lot of my brother and my cousins are all like either musicians or like into dance or whatever, but nobody's ever pursued it as a full-time gig. Um,
Mhm.
so yeah, I do, as you mentioned, artist management. I also do stage management and production management. And then there's the other side of me that does the like digital productions and marketing and content creation, and I help artists pave their own careers as to this is their goal and how do they want to get there and design their strategies. So yeah, there's a lot to it. And you said top it off with um and I know I'm missing a big chunk of what you wanted to talk about. I haven't gotten
It's
there yet,
okay.
but to top it off with what my greatest milestone or achievement of 2020 was is this is the first year that I've had several projects come out on big label channels in India. So I've had a couple projects come out on the Sony channel that I've shot
Nice.
for.
Yeah.
Yeah, and well, I just recently shot a video for Junta that is on Salim Suleiman's new channel, Merchant Records. It's one of their first few songs. So yeah.
That's big, man. And the reason I ask everybody I meet that is, so much of like people's first time conversation coming out of COVID is
Yeah.
always a negative. It's like, man, how was, life for you? And it steers down this like negativity around what COVID happened. So I tend to force people to snap out or to go, give me one thing that was amazing in COVID.
Right,
And once
right.
you find the one thing, it's like that perfect, rip, right? It just starts
Yeah.
to really expand. And you start to shift your mindset from here's 1,000 things that went wrong to
Right.
here's like a handful of things that went amazing, but we don't recognize a handful when we're surrounded by all these big, crazy bad things.
Yeah, that's true. I just want to take a quick moment to say hello to all my friends from India who've joined. I see quite a few of you. Aditya, Raj, Leila, Sid. I see you. I see you. Thank you for joining this morning. And yeah, to your point about like, a lot of us, especially towards the beginning when we were all getting frustrated at the fact that we're stuck in our houses, like those of us who work in the arts, we're not used to being at home. Like we're used to
Mm.
being on the move, like surrounded by people. We get like so little bit of sleep a lot of the times. Like the type of lifestyle that we live is so go, go, go that like this complete slowdown for when COVID hit, it was like it was really new. And yeah, we did all tend to, I guess, like being in the arts, we are all driven by emotion, so it hit us hard, right?
Yeah.
Not to say that it didn't hit other people hard, but we all feel a lot. So um it was one of those things where it was easy to get into that mindset of, oh no, like this is not a good thing. But I am really grateful that 2020 has turned out to be one of the best years for me so far, in terms of being able to accomplish the things that I want to do in different ways that I didn't even think I could have done. And
Yeah.
that's just from having the time to be at home and like actually do stuff.
Yeah, I totally love it, man. And for me, I think diving into this idea of expectations, um, 2020 was a great reminder of, what are you focusing on? We
Yeah, for
we
sure.
speed down this highway of like, life and career and things in our head so fast that we're driving on such a high energy, let's go get stuff done, especially in the arts, right? When
Hmm.
the opportunity opens itself to a collaboration or some sort of a new milestone, you sort of go all in because that moment might not be around in a
Yeah.
month or two or three, and then you don't look back until like you're exhausted and you go, oh man, where was the last 3 months of my life?
Yeah, it's true.
But let's break down this expectation. So the whole point of this whole week is to look at, okay, how are we as a culture managing expectations?
Right.
There is the version of expectation that is implied immediately as soon as you're born.
Hmm.
What position you were born in, your gender, your skin color, your height, weight,
Yeah, for
everything
sure. For sure.
turns into a
Completely.
formula right
Yeah.
after you're born. And like, oh, here's a dark little kid, and this is what you're gonna do. Or here's a tall, light-skinned Indian kid, and oh, you're
Yeah.
the first of the family. Oh my gosh, you get the torch, whether you
Yeah.
want it or not. So there's that expectation, and then we consciously at some point uh, hear the world's expectation, and most of the time it's in school first,
Hmm.
right? And then in those formidable years, you start to listen to yourself. You haven't really figured out that's your own voice yet. You can't tell the difference. Is it
Yeah.
the world's noise? Is it my noise? Is it the parents' noise? So this is idea of self. And then when you get to my age, a little older, you hear like spiritual voices in your head of life and morality and legacy and all this other stuff. And so if we let's take it back to like I love what you said. You sort of love dabbling and then find your passion. You're the first one out of your family to pursue the arts full time. What would that expectation like?
So, to one of the points that you said, like your position of where you're born in life. So, I am actually the last grandkid on both sides of my family. So,
Okay,
the pressure is quite
the
high. I'm
just
the
a tiny
baby.
bit.
Yeah, I'm the baby, but I'm also like it's like you're the last hope for something big to happen to this family, or like for like to achieve something good for this family. And that comes after having like I have really established cousins. Like I have cousins with their PhDs. I have a cousin who was like a lawyer for Yahoo. I have cousins who are like top positions at like companies like Johnson and Johnson and stuff like that. So, like the expectation is like, hey, you need to kind of match up to those kinds of things. And as you said, like I have okay, so for those who don't know who I am, I have been working in the entertainment industry for quite some time now, and I have my foot in the door both here in Canada as well as in India, primarily in Mumbai, working with artists who are in the Bollywood industry. Um, So I've had friends and cousins say to me that, we always had great expectations for you. We knew you were going to do something big. I've had a friend a couple years ago say to me, like, because I'd show them stuff that my friends are achieving in Bollywood, or like, interviews of them talking about themselves or new songs they've come out with or whatever. And I had a comment once that, look at your friends and look at who you are and what are you doing with your life. Like, look at where they are and look at where you are, and how's that okay?
Mm.
And so it's like, those kinds of things, they do make you think. And again, yes, it does come back down to like, I was a really good student, and I went above and beyond. Like, growing up, I always went above and beyond whatever the expectations were. Like, that was just who I am. Like, it's like, I don't want to just do it. I want to do it really well. And how do I do it different?
Mm.
And that was never something that I thought about until later on in life, when I realized that, like, okay, why is it that I can't just get something done? I need to get it done to the best of my ability. Even a couple of days ago, I was working on something, and I was like, that didn't work. Like, we tried to get someone else to do it and it didn't work out. And then I ended up doing it myself. And I'm like, why is it that I couldn't put in the same effort that that person put in and just be like, okay with the results?
Yeah.
But I want to see that the end product is something that I am proud of and that other people are going to look at and say, wow.
Right.
So I do, yeah, I do have high expectations of myself. And I think that it has been, a lot of it has been, um, it has come from the expectations, friend expectations, stuff like that. And they sort of, over time, those expectations from other people sort of made me think about, okay, like, what is it that I'm actually good at? What do I want to do? And how do those things line up with each other?
Right. Yeah, which is perfect because one of the things I've been really dissecting, and this, we're you're producing all of my content behind the scenes, so you get to hear my noise in your head every day. Unfortunately, as you as you listen to,
Fortunately, it makes me think.
you
I'm glad
know,
for it.
I've been really focused on understanding, like, what is the formula for this word expectation? It's such a simple
Right.
word. I
Yeah.
I expect this, and then we can throw it out. Like, I look at my kids and I throw it out. I expect you to be better, or I expect you to do this, and I'm like, well, what does that word mean? What does the word
Yeah.
expectation mean? And why is there always this negative connotation, right?
Yeah.
Why can't expectation of another person from the beginning be a moment of inspiration, or be a moment of pride? And one of the things you said that was really interesting is, you're proud of the work you do, right? So if one of the tentacles of this word expectation is, are you proud of what you're delivering? And the more proud you are of the things you do, the more the expectation is positive versus the opposite, right?
Yeah.
What about the emotional side of it? Like, you're going through getting your bachelor's of arts. I don't know anybody else whose parents are supportive of getting a fine arts degree in our culture.
Yeah,
So hats
exactly.
off to you. You're already like, I'm doing what I want to do. As you're going through, year one, year two, year three, getting ready to get out, what is that pressure like? What is that mounting pressure like?
So I remember, so like, I'll come back to the family part in a second, but I remember during orientation week, the head of the program sat us down in one of the classrooms, and he's like, look to your left and look to your right. By the end of this program, only one of you is going to be here.
What?
And yeah, I was like, is this coming out of a professor? Like, what is he trying to say here?
Okay, talk
And
about expectations. That's a weird one to set up for day one.
yeah, because like, it's like this competition now that, like, I have to make it through. I have to be the one of the three that's sitting here. And I mean, he was right. It was a very competitive program. They did do their best to teach you what it is going to be like on the outside, in terms of like setting people up against each other and all of that kind of emotional drama that comes along with it. So that was like a good kickstart to the reality that I would face sort of outside. In terms of my family, yeah, of course. So when I was first applying for university, the programs that I applied to initially, so I've always been kind of geeky when it comes to technology. I used to be that kid that would like sit and build computers or, learn how to code and those kinds of things. Like if anybody had a problem with any of their devices, they'd be like, "So how do you fix this?" So so the natural
You were
I
Geek Squad before Geek Squad happened.
before geeks like I was so ICQ, do you remember that? It was like
Yeah,
the
yeah.
first chat platform. I was 9 years old when we first got it in our house, and like none of my friends knew what that was. Like they didn't know what was going on. Like the internet was kind of new to like households at that point in time, and I was all over it. Like I was totally figuring it out at that age. So the natural path, like again, like I said, it was either go into teaching or um everyone was trying to suggest to me, oh, like go into IT, you'll make a lot of money and all that kind of stuff. You're good at it anyway, so you might as well do it. And then also like towards the end of high school is when I started figuring out that I was good at this whole like media stuff. So it also applied to the radio and television broadcasting program at Ryerson, and I got accepted for all the programs that I applied to. I got accepted. Some of them I got scholarships for, and by force, I went into the IT program and I just wasn't having it. Like, yeah, it was something I was good at, but that wasn't something I wanted to sit. Like, I was not the type of person you could, at like 18 years old, say, sit in front of a desk and code all day or like do this and do that, where I was already in a creative zone. I was dancing, I was performing full time, all that. So, like, I had to rethink it. And then eventually I ended up reapplying and I applied for the theater program. So that's where it's like I had to shut the noise out of everybody being like, no, you can't do this full time because like at that point in time I was already teaching dance and I was performing
Mm,
regularly. So like I kind of knew what my and music was always a part of me since I was a kid. So I kind of knew what I like to do. And it was like, I don't want to listen to you just because you think that's what I should be doing. So that was, I
yeah.
think, the shift in where I started listening to myself instead of other people.
That's a
Um,
big shift. That's a big shift. And the knowledge bomb that I just wrote down that I'd love for you to explain a little bit more. Just because you're good at something doesn't mean you should pursue it, right?
yeah, a
And
hundred
that's
percent.
and that's such a huge cultural thing where they think what you're good at academically is sort of your life. And here you are saying, "Hey man, I was good in technology, but I didn't have the passion to really excel or push myself to be better at it."
Yeah,
And sometimes we get stuck in good so long because everybody else says we're good at it that we don't add on the layer of passion, which then doesn't push us to beat our own expectations. And we're
exactly.
stuck in good versus great. And I love that, that thing. Just wow, amazing.
Yeah, I mean, because, there's a certain point in time where you have to realize that it's also about your happiness, right? Like at the end of the day, I started off as an artist, and so you're trying to confine me to be, to shut that down, to do everything else. So that was the point where I had to listen to myself and be like, okay, no, I don't want to be miserable all day just doing what somebody else is telling me to do. I need to start listening to what makes me happy and
Mm,
allow that to come through as well. So
right.
yeah, like that's I think along the way, even till now, like I think in the last maybe 2 years, and I guess now I can lead up to what we were talking about before. Last year, um, I spent the year living and working in Mumbai, which was so going to Ryerson, I stayed at home. I'd never like been away from home because it's such a short like commute over. So I took a huge step. An opportunity came my way, and I went out to Mumbai and I lived there for a year. And um, that was that was like an eye-opening moment for me because you're so used to being spoon-fed everything, right? But then you're on your own and seeing everyone else living in Mumbai, they're most of them are there to pursue their dreams. And being there changed my perspective on all of that. Uh,
Mm,
because you're if you want to it was one of those moments for me that like if I actually wanted to pursue my dreams, I needed to try when an opportunity came my way rather than saying no.
Right.
So it took me completely out of my comfort zone to be able to take that step for sure.
Yeah, and I think uh, comfort level is a weird thing too, right? Because when you're born, and I see this with my kids, they don't have a ceiling. Like
Yeah,
when they're first born, everything is the first time syndrome, right?
yeah,
Uh, and we start to mold their comfort zone
yeah,
with our expectation as parents or caregivers of life, right?
exactly.
But when you're born, you don't have any type of rules, a safety net. You're just everything is first. And one of the things I try to practice every single day to break out of my own like negative expectations is this idea of first time view of the world. Like how many different things can I experience for the very first time, whether it's the brand new restaurant that I haven't tried or the path I've taken on a walk to work or drive or something where constantly reminding myself that there's a newness and there's an unexplored, frontier
Hmm.
helps me sort of continue to shape my expectations. And then here
For
you are,
sure.
you got on a goddamn plane, took off to India, no safety net, trying to figure out what to do, and you're there for not like a month or two where people just give up and run back.
Like a whole year.
A whole year, like a whole year. Crazy.
So it wasn't until like that experience was like the big changing factor even for my parents and my family to support the decision that I wasn't like kidding about this is what I want to do. Like I'm not the 9 to 5 type person. Like I remember when the topic, so the first time I went to India was back in 2014, and I've been there a couple times. A couple years ago, I went and I stayed for a few months just to sort of like explore the industry and also like explore the lifestyle so that I know what, like, is this actually something I want to try out? Because like culture shock is obviously a thing when you're coming from a first world country to a third world country, right? And at that point in time, my parents are obviously still skeptical, my whole family, because it's like, why are you chasing this shiny thing? Like, just do what's comfortable. Like you've spoken about this in many of your earlier episodes about, just making money to be comfortable as opposed to, so like they go, they do their routine and that's it. Like life becomes mundane, or like it's literally just a routine because you need to feed your family and pay your bills, right? But it's not like I'm not doing it because I want to do it. I'm doing it because I have to do it. So
Exactly.
they were definitely still in that mindset until very recently, especially when I took that step and said like I'm not listening to you guys. I'm gonna hop on a plane and go over there. I have no family there. My Hindi was quite weak at that point in time. Like I did understand, but I didn't speak very well or very comfortably. We don't speak Hindi at home. We're actually from the Caribbean. So
Right.
yeah, like it is a culture shock. Like it is, even though our ancestors are from India, we are not from India. So there is a bit of a difference, although I grew up very much Indian, but still
I,
it's
I
not like,
love I love I love the
yeah,
quotes because I do the same. I'm like,
yeah,
you know,
yeah.
um,
It's
listen,
confusion. It's confusion
it's
as a human being, right?
it is, especially when they look at us and they're like, "What do you mean you're brown, but
Indian.
you're not brown?" Guys, there's so many layers. If you're watching this or listening to this podcast, there's a whole layer of Indianism that is levels of depth that people sort of associate and break into. The thing that you said that was kind of interesting, and I want to break that down a tiny bit more. And I don't know if you said it consciously or not, but this I don't want to be a nine to fiver,
Hmm.
right? I know why I didn't want to be a nine to fiver because of life, and people that follow me know the story. But what was your thought around nine to five? And I ask this out of respect for people that follow me that love their nine to five and they can't imagine anything else but nine to five. And then there's people like us where we don't follow the same routine to go, I want to be in nine to five. So what is about nine to five that you're like, I'm not a nine to five person?
So I've done it before. It's not to say that I've never worked a 9 to 5 job. I have. It's just not the life for me. And everyone in my family has 9 to 5 jobs. Like that's the lifestyle that I've seen my entire life. I'm not the type of person that, and I learned this over time, that you can contain. You can't tell me what to do. I mean, you can tell me what to do, but you need to let me do it my own way. And I got to figure it out. Yes, you can give me a template, you can give me a plan, but things start turning in my head that like tell me to do something another way. So I feel like the ninth, first of all, another thing is I doing one thing for an entire day is not also not me. Like I can't. Like I can do it. I'm the type of person that like I wake up in the morning with an idea or I wake up in the middle of the night with an idea and I'm like, okay, I want to work on this and I'm going to work on it now because
Right.
it's fresh in my head and like the ideas are percolating. So can being in an environment where things are the same again and again is not something that and I can't sit at a desk for like, and I think that was something that I've known. I remember one time when I was quite young, my brother said it to me also. He's like, I don't see you sitting at a desk all day. Like, you'd probably be doing a job that's like where you're on your feet or like moving around a lot, but like literally moving around a lot, as in traveling and doing things that are from different places to
Right.
different places. That's where I see myself. I like the hustle and bustle of the entertainment life, and that kind of makes sense for not being able to do
Hmm.
the 9 to 5.
So what's your routine like? What do you what break this down like a little bit of your day? I love your percolation idea because that's literally me. Like people sleep to get away and like rest. I sleep to formulate new things in my
Ideas.
life. It's
Yeah.
so crazy. Like some of my best thinkings happen when I go to bed a little confused. And then I
Yes.
wake up and I was like, scribble, 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 scribble. Let's go. And then probably 9 out of 10 times I'm texting you and a few other people at like 8 a.m. I figured out something, you know? So what does routine look like for somebody who wants to live the kind of lifestyle you live?
So I think the word routine in itself doesn't quite exist because every day is very different and it depends on what's on the go. I mean, recently my routine has included waking up to listen to your IG lives and taking notes as we go. But yeah, it is quite different. I do still have my foot in 2 time zones. So a lot of the times I am up at night working on stuff with people in India, different projects, stuff for like social media campaigns or like digital content, or just in general like other music projects and stuff like that. So that's the late nights definitely still do exist because of the time difference. Other than that, I do a lot of mentorship, I would call it, for aspiring artists, whether it is on their like actual journey to becoming an artist, defining who they are and what their music sounds like, as well as like trying to help them find the tools and resources to become who they are. I'm not saying that I'm
Mm,
an expert in this, but I do have the foresight, I would say, to be able to say, okay, this is what you need, even if I don't have the skills to be able to help you get there.
right.
Um, and in that process, I help artists create music sometimes, whether it's setting them up with producers or helping them with smaller projects myself. I do a little bit of like recording and um, helping with vocal arrangements and shooting videos, editing videos, those kinds of things are there. And then content strategy as well for not just artists, but for various types of individuals as well. How to build their presence on digital platforms, whether it's YouTube or social media platforms or whatever it is.
Yeah, yeah. What's amazing with that answer, and I'm guilty of it. We don't know how to talk about ourselves.
Yeah,
So we tend to talk about the things we do for others. Uh, Even though my question was like, what is your routine? Like, how do you do you
yeah.
went into how do you help people, which
Right,
is
right, right.
awesome,
And
which
I
is
think
awesome.
that's the biggest thing is I spend a lot of my day, okay, what's my routine? I spend a lot of my day helping people. I mean, I have been trying to focus on, doing the things that we're supposed to do for ourselves. Yeah, mindfulness and like things like reading and developing my own skills. I have been focusing a lot more on that, especially since the beginning of 2020. I have been making a lot more time for myself to be able to develop my own skills and like give myself the things that I need, whether it's journaling or, just I want to learn something more about one of the things that I'm doing or something that I want to do. Yeah, I have been prioritizing that a lot more. And then healthy lifestyle. I was telling you a couple of days ago that I would love to get into an actual routine of working out. I see one of my friends joined in here, Safira, who is going to try to pump me up now that she's heard me say this because she's definitely into fitness. She tried to make me go bike riding with her the other day, and there were too many hills, and I yelled at her
Too
that I'm
many
not going.
hills.
Yeah, I'm
Who
like, I'm not.
says there's too many hills?
There were too many hills, so I got off the bike, and I was like, I'm not doing this. So that happened.
Safira, don't let her stop. Keep her on that bike. Keep her on that bike, man. It's amazing. How do you create white space for yourself to listen to yourself?
So I've noticed that the only way that I can, okay, there are two ways actually, but the best way for me is if I can sleep. If I can sleep, if I need to shut my brain off completely, and if I can sleep and wake up, that time when I wake up is the time that I can settle the noise.
Mm,
That's the number one way. Although, yeah, at a time where you're like super emotionally charged or there's a lot going on, it is hard to like just force a nap. Um, but like it may take you longer to force the nap than it may take to actually sleep. But that's the number one way for me. The other way I found is driving. Like if I go for a drive, that's the second best way for me to clear my head and get into a space of being able to think clearly. First of all,
mm.
I think the very first step actually is identifying that need to get into a zone of white space or that there is too much noise going on in your head and you're not able to find clarity at that moment.
Right. Yeah. And recognition is step one,
Yeah.
and when I tell people, the best of you is hidden until
Hmm.
you listen to yourself. And we are so good at not listening to ourselves, and which is one of the reasons for this idea of exploring expectations. And in my head, I've sort of broken it down into those four areas, right? Like,
Hmm.
here's your family expectation, the world's expectation, your self expectation, and then there's the spiritual expectation. The world is, I think, the easiest because there's rules to follow. You got to be a good human. You stay out of jail. You contribute. You pay your taxes. You treat each other nice. You live with other people in the universe. Leave it better than what you got. Like plant a tree. That kind of mindset. Um,
Hmm.
I I I spent the first 15 years of my life putting my parents' expectations before my own because I didn't know how to listen to myself because they were so noisy in my channels where I couldn't listen to myself. And
Hmm.
then the white space happened, and then I started to listen to myself. So if I rejigged my order, it's listen to me first, listen to my spirituality second, listen to family third, and then the world is like way down the path. What would like your order be?
I
And do
think
you have
my
other things you put in there?
I think my order would be the same or very similar. Like between spiritual and myself, I think it flip-flops a little bit because it depends on what the answer to the question why is. Like, first of all, what is the problem or what is it that I'm trying to address? And why is it a problem? Like, why is this something that I'm exploring in the first place? Why is there confusion? Why is there a sense of discomfort or debate or whatever the situation is? Is it coming from we don't realize how much emotion goes into decision making or into the fact that we are confused in the first place. That's what causes the confusion, right?
Mm,
The lack of balance between the logical side and the emotional side, I think, is plays a really big role in why something doesn't make sense to us to begin with. So I think for me, a lot of the times, depending on what it is, especially if it's something bigger, it does come down to more of the spiritual and less of the me, like flip-flopping those two. And then obviously, like you said, the world comes later.
mm,
I would say this is a fairly recent change of in the last year and a half that I've been able to adopt that mindset and not think first emotionally, um, or listen to what other people have to say when there is so much noise. Um, But yeah, there are other times where it's like I know that I need to listen to myself first before the spiritual side because they may not necessarily line up. Like there may be a logical reason why I need to do something that may eventually then lead to the spiritual reason as to why it needs to happen.
Yeah. No, I love that, man. I love that. And what's amazing about this opening conversation is I had no real idea how to bottle all this stuff because there's been, a lot of my morning talks, as you know, is I have a thought and then I
Hmm.
explore it publicly, right? I'm no
Right.
expert in this, but I explore it publicly and usually over 3 to 4 guests over a week. There's a lot of clarity and moments of inspiration that happen. And I'm in a similar boat where like, I'm trying to figure out uh, what is the noise I'm hearing this year? You
Hmm.
know, um, because so much of the world's noise is negative. So I'm
Right.
consciously ignoring it between the political mess in the U.S. that we get inundated with the Canadian politics, with the school systems and medical system. And so I sort of said, hey, I'm gonna put you off the radar. Like I don't even watch TV anymore
Yeah.
because I can't digest it and absorb it and understand what's going on. Um, the family noise is really weird uh, because we play small all of a sudden.
Yeah.
I'm 45 and my mom still calls me every now and then to see if like I've got a job, am I getting paid? And she'll literally ask me like, "What's your weekly paycheck like?" I'm like,
Yeah.
I can't remember the last time I got paid weekly. Like, I don't understand what kind of job you think I have at 45 that they pay me every week. Like, do you know who you're talking to? But that's
Yeah,
her,
for sure.
and then that leaves a little bit of an anxiety that takes time to like remove. And I'm constantly battling between me and something above me, right? To like understand, how do I manifest? How do I practice gratitude? These actions that are for the universe. Like
Right.
manifestation is between you and the universe. Practicing gratitude is between you and the universe. Spending more time than ever this year with a relationship between me and a greater power,
Right.
more than any ever, like any time ever in my life.
I think to that point for me too, I think that transition kind of happened last year, especially while I was in India, because when you're not surrounded by people that you know, you're in like a completely new environment. That sense of like, who do I turn to when it's just you and you, right? So a lot of that, um, the spiritual aspect, the me and the universe, and also just seeing the little wins that you only are able to recognize once you do start adopting that mindset. I think that has made me a bigger believer because for me initially, I think I was the type of person that I couldn't understand or fully believe something until I could see it. Um, and so visualization kind of worked because it's like, okay, I want to have this thing, but then there was always that doubt of like, yes, that's a picture sitting on my wall, but how do I actually achieve it? Because as the type of inquisitive human being, you want to know the how. And one of the things that you learn as we start understanding or learning about the universe and a higher entity or whatever it is, the way it works is that you will not understand the how. You just know that
Mm,
this is the expectation, this is what you want. I'm not going to use the word expectation because this is what you want, but the how you're going to get it is not for you to know. Um, so yeah, for me, that trusting that there is something bigger and being able to shut out the emotional baggage around certain things and just know that, okay, this is what the actual goal is, this is what I want. Believe that it's all so. There are a few friends that are on here that I
well,
haven't
like, go
told,
on, girl.
no, who I
Preach, preach.
haven't told about this yet, but I just got this
Oh,
on the weekend.
believe.
It says believe, it's backwards in the camera, but uh I got that because of this entire conversation that we're having right now, which is learning to just believe. Believe that what you want is something that you deserve and that it's something that you will have in life. Believe that it's already yours and then it will happen. And as I said, it's celebrating the small wins and being able to see that they've actually happened, um, when they do happen, like to be able to recognize that, hey, that thing that I wanted is actually now mine.
That is such a bomb. As you're talking, like my puzzles are falling into place, and I love how uh, you broke down this idea of manifestation through expecting. And I think one of the things that I've been really practicing is expectations by design, right?
Right.
Because what I'm learning is when I create expectation thoughtfully, consciously by design, it goes from I hope to achieve it to I
Hmm.
believe I can achieve it.
Right.
And I didn't know how to articulate it until you just connected the dots. And so if I could like re-summarize this as a 30-second blip, it's when you take the things you want in life and you expect you to have those things in life.
Hmm.
And a lot of us should expect we're going to have great relationships. We're going to have great kids. We're going to have great health. We're going to have great employment. We're going to have great friends, right? If we expect those things and we consciously design those expectations, the starting point is not I hope, it's I believe that these things are for me.
Right.
What a
That,
powerful
yeah.
morning.
That's the idea. And I mean, I think also too, one of the things is like being conscious and being aware of like along your journey, because again, it comes down to being able to recognize the messages around you, right? Everything happens for a reason, literally. And it's some things are messages that are sent for you to change a behavior. Some things are messages that are sent for you to change a mindset. So things, although things may be going in a way that we perceive as negatively, it may be something that we need to actually recognize that this is happening because I need to change something. So until you don't make that shift, things are going to keep going in the negative way until you've received the message and now have learned that, okay, this is, I need to move. I need to change my direction in order to be able to get what I want, or what it
Mm,
is that I believe that I'm trying to manifest.
I love it, man. I love it. So let's get to the very last question, which is my favorite question. What is your relationship with money?
So I've been thinking about that a lot. So
You had a 40,
especially
you had a
a
you had a
45
45
days.
episode head
Yeah,
start.
exactly. So every day when you ask that question to somebody else, I do think about it. So I have been trying to understand money, especially for the last like couple years, because you know, this comes back down to you don't know what you don't know.
Right.
Because for me, I didn't start asking questions about money until I was much older. Until after, I would say probably like 2017, which is the time like I was in my late 20s at that point in time. I should have understood money by then because that was a time where I had the ability to be financially free. But you're as you've mentioned in earlier episodes, we're force-fed ideas from our parents. We're handed them down, right? So we don't necessarily question something until we have the awareness to be able to question it. So
Right.
I didn't understand that I had a bad relationship with money until I started hearing other people talking about the way that their parents taught them about money, or like what their ideas about money are. A lot of people, they tend to just like sort of frown upon different ways of handling money, but they don't tell you,
Mm,
okay, this is how you can understand it differently, or like this is what your negative um uh projection of the situation around money is. So for me, I've been reading books, I've been speaking to people, I've been trying to understand, doing a lot of research, to sort of break down what are the lessons that were handed down to me by my parents, um, and why is it that money is such a taboo thing for me. Like for me, when it comes to, one of the biggest things was like, if I do something that I think is like super easy for me, or something that like I'm doing it for a friend, but it's like I'm just doing it for you as a favor. It's all Until just recently, it's always been a thing that I've never thought twice about. It's like just doing this for you because it's like it comes to me as second nature, right? But
right.
people have been trying to instill to me that
You
especially
got to
those
get that.
things are the things that you need to charge for. Like
Yeah.
yeah, you got to get that out of your head. So like those kinds of things. I've been reading a book. I actually have it right here beside my bed. I'll show it to you. Um,
Secrets
See,
of the Millionaire Mind.
Mind. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So they talk about um wealth files. So all of the negative ideas that we have in our minds about money and what stops us from how those things stop us from actually attracting the money and maintaining it, because sometimes we are able to make money, but being able to keep it or grow it or continuously make it is something that we're not able to do because of certain things that are embedded in the back of our minds. um
Mm,
so especially for us as like South Asians who've been raised by parents who have the mindset of like either hoarding or like you need to save for a rainy day or like you need to just make as make what you can, like the make do mentality. um
right.
those are for us. I think we all carry a little bit of this negative baggage about money when it comes to being able to earn it consistently and keep it.
Yeah, it's an incredible motivator and also a demotivator.
Right.
And one of the things I realize when I speak to people, especially people that come from an immigrant background, um, we're not comfortable in thinking about money in abundance.
Right.
Very, very often, the reaction to the question, even including myself, is always one of like uh, comfort. It's like, oh, I don't have a problem with money, it's cool, I have it. Versus like, I want it. I want a ton of it. I want a lot of it. I want bags of it. I want more of it. And if I have the ability to make $1, why can't it be a million? Why does it have to be $1?
I
Right?
think a lot of it, as sorry to interrupt you, a lot of it as coming from a South Asian background is like, how do we understand, what do we perceive, how do we perceive a rich person versus how do we perceive a poor person versus how do we perceive a middle class person? What are the connotations associated with these various words in our mind, in our subconscious minds that we're not even able to recognize, right?
Yeah.
And especially in a culture like South Asian culture where there is like the caste system that has come down from generations, which we may not believe in now, but still in our subconscious minds, that idea may be there in a
Mm,
certain kind of way that has our perception of riches versus middle class life or being poor. They may be affecting our judgment of money, which then hinders us from being able to grow it, because again,
yeah.
it's the message you're sending out into the universe about money, right?
Yeah, it's like if I don't have enough, I'm poor. If
Yeah.
I have too much, I'm that rich person.
Right.
If I'm in the middle, I'm always, oscillating between survival and abundance.
Hmm.
And for me who didn't live in the culture, like I left India when I was 3. I grew up in Singapore. I came to Canada, surrounded by non-Indian cultures for most of my time, West Indians and my
Hmm.
Jamaican friends. And so for me, they don't talk about money at
Yeah.
all. And then when I fell in love with my culture again, a lot of the relationships start with like money. And even something as simple as like, Daisy Fest that I've been working on. When I meet people from our culture, the things they always ask me is, are you making money with this thing? And
Yeah.
what kind of sponsors are you getting? And it's a really interesting gauge. Like even my dad, like I would tell him, I got a show coming up, and it'll be the first thing will be like, are you making money? And how much are people paying? And how much is the
Hmm.
food vendor paying? I'm like, why do
Yeah.
you care? Why don't you just come have some food on me instead of wondering how much are they spending, with
Yeah.
me? And so it's incredible. If you're pursuing down this path, I encourage you to read another book called Salt.
Okay.
Uh, and salt is the earliest form of currency in the world.
Okay.
And before we knew money the way we knew today, people traded salt as currency. And it's a fascinating book. I read it like 10 years ago or something, and it still impacts me when I think about like, what if the world remained in that salt mindset where
Right.
we barter and we give value to each other versus this money? Because
Money.
I might not need $1 million from you, but if you're able to help me with something I need and I'm able to help you with something you need, can that sort of, become the new currency? And so lots of like really cool stuff. One last thing, what is the one thing that you're working on this year? What's the life hack? What's the bio hack? What are you working on?
I'm currently working on um, a program to help artists develop their social media presence and get a little bit more traction online. This is something we're sort of working on together, and I'm pretty sure listeners will hear more about it sometime soon. That's current on the plan, and I also do want to get into doing a little bit more when it comes to audio video productions on a larger scale than I've been doing currently.
It's gonna happen. Manifest it, my friend. Thank you so much for your time
My
today. I
pleasure. Thank you
appreciate
for
you.
inviting me on your show.
Yeah, and I got to know one more layer of this complex layer that is Nirmala, which is amazing with every layer. And I'm sure we're going to talk again later today. In fact, probably in 5 minutes once we
It
hang out.
probably
But
will.
but I appreciate you helping me kick off the week when we talk about expectations. And we got a great lineup of guests and me coming on to share some thoughts. And we're going to hit episode 50, which I'm excited about.
Yay. Coming up
Which I'm
soon.
excited about. So I'll talk to you soon. Thank you. Have a fantastic day.
You too. Take care.